Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something that's honestly one of the most fascinating and frankly urgent challenges we're facing right now. We're talking about the paradox of seamless artificial intelligence. Basically, we're going to figure out how to use AI as this incredibly powerful helper without letting it become a crutch that completely dulls your mind. AI has totally shifted from a cool novelty to an everyday necessity, but as we hand over more and more of our heavy mental lifting to machines, we really risk losing our own cognitive edge. So, be honest with yourself for a second. When was the absolute last time you genuinely struggled with a hard, complex problem before just giving up and asking AI for the answer? It's a serious question. The convenience of just typing a quick prompt and getting this instant, beautifully polished response is insanely seductive. But as we're going to see from the data, leaning too hard on that convenience can lead to a quiet dependency. It slowly erodes our independent problem-solving skills and, well, kind of turns our mental sharpness to mush. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the cognitive offloading trap, crutch versus catalyst, the power of generative friction, the Socratic AI tutor, and finally, we'll wrap up with actionable strategies for assisted thinking. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the cognitive offloading trap. Let's look at what actually happens when we outsource our brain power. Cognitive offloading isn't exactly a new concept. We've always done it. We use calendars, calculators, notebooks. But when we use AI to read, synthesize, and evaluate complex stuff on our behalf, it doesn't just extend our cognition like a calendar does, it actually substitutes it. Without that productive struggle, that messy process of wrestling with information yourself, our mental muscles just quietly begin to weaken. And this isn't just some theoretical what-if scenario. Research out of Kennesaw State University highlighted how contemporary AI can quite literally lead to a de-skilled workforce. They drew this wild parallel to earlier research on heavy media multitaskers, people who, it turns out, actually perform worse on tests of working memory. The huge danger here is that an organization where people just constantly consult AI before forming their own independent thoughts might produce perfectly fine work on the surface, but the underlying analytical infrastructure, meaning the actual human brains, is just quietly deteriorating. Moving right along to Section 2, crutch versus catalyst. Now that we see the danger, we have to understand the difference between AI that hurts us and AI that helps us. So Psychology Today breaks this duality down beautifully. Using AI as a vending machine for instant answers, that's the crutch. It totally kills your curiosity. But using it as an AI catalyst puts you in a state of assisted thinking. This is where you let the AI handle the mechanical, boring stuff, like formatting data or tracking routine metrics. Think about it. The human brain can only hold about 4 chunks of information at once, just 4. So when AI acts as your reasoning partner to handle the clutter, it frees up your limited working memory for the really high-order, complex problem-solving that only you can do. Which brings us to Section 3, the power of generative friction. To actually force our brains into that healthy assisted thinking mode, we kind of have to fight the tech industry's obsession with making everything perfectly seamless. There's this wildly fascinating CI26 workshop paper on AI ideation tools. The researchers make this brilliant point. Highly polished, instant AI outputs are basically a finished product that we just passively consume. It leads to this thing called design fixation. Basically, we just nod along because the AI's answer looks pretty and sounds confident. Their solution? Generative friction. These are intentional, built-in disruptions to the AI's output to make it less seamless. The whole goal is to transform the AI output from a finalized product into raw material, practically forcing you, the human, to jump in and do some work. So how do we actually add this friction? Well, the researchers tested 3 types. First is physical friction. Imagine the text being broken up, so you literally have to mine it for actionable keywords, instead of just skimming a paragraph. Then there's temporal friction, which intentionally delays the AI's response. It just makes you wait a second, giving you a window to front-load your own original ideas. And lastly, semantic friction. This makes the AI's output cryptic, or even metaphorical, turning it into a puzzle. By throwing these little roadblocks into the interface, it forces your brain to snap out of autopilot, switch gears, and generate original thought, instead of just hitting copy-paste. And here is the absolute kicker from that study. Our response to this friction depends completely on our own personality. Users who were cool with ambiguity, they absolutely loved it. They called the semantic puzzles a minigame and said the resistance actually felt liberating for their creativity. But the users who were totally addicted to speed and maximum efficiency, they absolutely hated it. They felt it was a frustrating drag. The crazy irony here is that the people who most needed the friction to prevent AI dependency were the very ones most likely to reject it. Let's move to Section 4, the Socratic AI tutor. Because look, software companies probably aren't going to build this friction for us. They want to sell seamlessness, so we have to create it ourselves. A great post from the Rephrase blog shows us exactly how to put this into practice with our prompts. Most of us just use direct answer prompts, right? Hey, solve this problem for me. Boom, full solution, super fast. But the learning value is practically zero. Instead, try commanding the AI to act like a strict Socratic tutor. You literally type, "Do not give me the full solution. Ask me a guiding question." Or you try a scaffolded hint ladder. Give me exactly one hint and then stop and wait for my reply. Computer science education research actually proves that this kind of prompting builds way more durable long-term skills. To really nail this, you want to use what's called diagnostic first prompting. This means you force the AI to figure out exactly what your knowledge gap is before it even attempts to explain anything. A really good rule of thumb is this. After the AI replies to you, do you have to think more or just copy more? A solid Socratic prompt keeps the cognitive loop firmly in your hands so the AI acts as a smart guide, not just an easy escape hatch. All right, let's bring it all home with Section 5, Strategies for Assisted Thinking. Here is how you actually apply this stuff to your daily routine. The Washington Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction recommends this super practical, straightforward workflow. They call it HAIH, human to AI to human. First, you must start with human inquiry, your own thoughts, your own critical questions. Second, you use AI for the production phase, brainstorming or drafting based on your specific constraints. And third, you always close with human reflection. You do the edits, the ethical checks, ensuring you actually comprehend it. It basically guarantees that AI is just a production tool and never the final thought. Dr. Dalia Sharif also gives us this amazing 5-dimensional framework for setting boundaries. 1. Cadence. Actually establish tech-free days so your brain can reset. 2. Task-based delegation. Let AI do the boring formatting, but keep the high-level strategy strictly human only. 3. Set ideation boundaries. Use it early on, but you finish the output. 4. Cognitive restoration. Go do something analog. Read a real book, do a logic puzzle, journal. Rebuild that stamina. And 5. Reflective practice. Honestly, ask yourself regularly how your tech habits are impacting your mental agility. She has this quote that just hits the nail on the head. What began as convenience gradually evolved into a quiet dependency. She actually noticed that tasks she used to do easily, like framing arguments or brainstorming, suddenly felt exhausting without AI. If we don't set intentional boundaries, convenience totally transforms into dependency. And without even realizing it, we hand over our curiosity and our unique human voice right to the machine. Look, AI is quite literally a game changer. It's one of the most powerful tools we have ever built. But to make sure your mind doesn't go dull, you have to actively step off that path of perfect, frictionless ease. You gotta choose to struggle just a little bit. Add that generative friction, act as your own Socratic tutor, and make sure the final thought is always yours. So as you head back to your day, ask yourself, how are you going to introduce a little friction into your AI habits today to protect your own brilliant mind? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay sharp out there.